Is there enough water in the desert? The answer might surprise you. The answer is basically yes. You might be surprised to find out that in the Southwest, we might be one of the best places to live as far as water is concerned. Here's the reason why. We sit on an aquifer. And in addition to being relatively well managed, at least that seems to be what most of the reports indicate. Obviously, there can be water issues anywhere you go. But as far as our management goes, our aquifer has been pretty well managed. And what we are hearing is from different news reports and what have you, is that we technically have enough water for decades to come. And that is even if our population were to grow. So that's not any of this coming from me. Actually, none of it's coming from me. But the research that I've done, being a resident here in the Coachella Valley, I have found some really interesting information, and I'm going to link all of it in the description so that you can watch these videos and read these news articles for yourself. But that is something that I think a lot of people are really interested in. So you're thinking about moving to the desert, and again, a lot of people, that's their first concern. One of the reasons that I personally wanted to live here as opposed to other parts of California anyway, is that we have a relatively low fire danger too. So in addition to actually having a pretty good water source, again, the aquifer that sits underneath us that I'm not going to try to explain, but again, a lot of the pros can explain more about it for you to you in the videos that I'm going to link. But also, I mean, just the fire danger. I grew up in Napa Valley, California. I still have family that lives up there and family that has lost homes to fire. And that's kind of a scary proposition, as you can imagine. And even places that are close by, the mountains near us, if you just go into the Inland Empire, etc. I know, unfortunately, Malibu, at the time I'm recording this, just recently had a terrible fire in their area. It's very scary. We don't have the same fire risk here as you are going to find in most other areas of California. And yet we do have more water than most areas of California as well. So while we don't get much rain, we have some very high mountains next to us. We get runoff. We have the aquifer. There are rights to the Colorado River. There are other ways that we are getting our water. So if that's something that might be stopping you from coming down here, or just giving you some pause, you might find this interesting. So a couple of things I wanted to go over here with you. So the aquifer, local agencies say Coachella Valley's water supply is secure despite the ongoing drought. States' water use restrictions still apply. Now listen, anywhere, especially in the West Coast, and I have lived all over the West Coast. I've lived anywhere from here. I lived in Las Vegas. I've lived in Washington State. Everywhere needs to consider conserving water. Even people in Seattle, because I live there too, they might be surprised that it wouldn't be the worst idea to conserve some water. So one of the things that, and this is a little bit of an older news article because I am recording in December of 2024, and this was from May of 2024. They had some information about the, what we were supposed to be doing to conserve water. And this is one of the articles that I will link below. So again, as you can see, our primary source is not the Colorado River. That's not our primary drinking source. That is a good non-potable, in other words, non-potable, you cannot drink it, way to irrigate our fields. We do have some agriculture here. We have dates, actually. I think I believe that's our biggest agriculture, but people are growing all sorts of stuff close by. The Colorado River makes a significant contribution to the local water supply because it actually does the aquifer replenishment. So as we're using the aquifer, then we get more water from the Colorado River, which of course is having issues, but our aquifer is robust. Some of the other stuff that I thought you would find interesting, there is a great news I was going to say article, but it was actually a news feature on the local, one of my favorite local news source here is News Channel 3, and they did a great story about, the drought and what was going on. Now, this was in 2022, but it was a very good and very detailed feature. So we've basically been dealt good cards. We've played them very well. Obviously, nobody says you should waste water. In fact, you should do what you can to conserve, because obviously that is always a good idea. We certainly want to be conserving our water. But we do have, we are not in the same situation as other parts of the state, not even close. The draconian measures that were coming in the rest of the state don't really extend to the Coachella Valley. Now, having said that, and again, you'll have all of this information, one of the things that we're doing to conserve here in the desert is they are, and I'm sure there's other areas that are offering this as well, but they are offering in different parts of the valley an amount of money to take out your lawn and replace it with some sort of desert or drought resistant landscaping. So for instance, we had a pretty good chunk of lawn. We decided to replace it with some pavers and some rocks. So we had a big chunk of it removed. It's a very easy process. We're in Indio Water District came out, looked at what we wanted to do. They took a measurement of our lawn and then said, okay, when you're done, we'll come back out. And they did. So when we were done, they came back out and they measured again. And then they could determine, okay, they took out this many square feet of grass and they gave us $2 a square foot of grass. And we got almost $1,000, which helped to offset the cost of what we were doing in the yard, which was really nice. So they're encouraging you to take out lawn. Obviously, lawn is beautiful, not the best choice to be in the desert with lawns, just getting tons of water everywhere. The other thing that I find interesting about living here in the Coachella Valley and thinking about water and thinking about conservation is the fact that I did live in Las Vegas for about 7 years. And I still think that Las Vegas is a really good indication of what you should be doing, believe it or not. I mean, you think of Las Vegas as this hey, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And it's this very, over the top kind of lifestyle and everything's exaggerated, extravagant. Nobody's thinking of the future, whatever. However, the people who live there and the people who are running the water and all the other things there, they're very conscious of it. And when I lived there, they would have news stories that talked about how much should you be watering your lawn. They would even go so far as to say, only water it at night. Leave out a tuna can in your yard and it shouldn't be overflowing the tuna can. You should just have enough water that it fills the tuna can. I thought that was a really good indication. I do notice here, maybe people are not taking that so seriously. I hate to say that, but it's kind of true. You don't have that kind of conservation level here. I think we could probably learn some things from Las Vegas. So I actually, there was a great news story about that as well. It was a CBS morning news story that they talked about Las Vegas and what they were doing. And they did have, and they talk about it in this news story. Again, I will be linking this below as well. They talked about it in this news story. There was people who would go by, and if you're watering your sidewalk or you're watering the road and your sprinklers are going all haywire, you will get fined. You will actually get in trouble for using too much water and not having your sprinklers only watering your landscaping and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty funny. Or if you're watering at the hottest part of the day, quite frankly, it's just burning your grass anyway. The one thing about our neighborhood is that's good and bad, a pro and a con. The pro is for our HOA dues. In my particular neighborhood, we have dues of, I want to say it's like $315 a month, give or take. And included in that is front and back landscaping that happens every single week. So the maintenance. The home came with it as well, but the maintenance is included in our HOA dues. So that's pretty fun. You don't have to worry about mowing your grass or anything like that. Not that we have that much left anyway, but one of the downsides is we don't have quite as much control over the water. So that's something that I think that would be great to bring up maybe at the next board meeting. is that, sometimes you find somebody set your grass to be watered at a time in the afternoon and you're like, it's hot outside. I was taught, like, they just drilled this into us when I lived in Vegas, that you don't do that. Anyway, so sidebar, let us get off my soapbox a little bit there. But having said that, I think there's a really good example in the Southwest of what we should be doing better. We could be doing a better job by watching the people in Las Vegas. So anyway, but I do think that you will find it interesting to know that you're not going to have nearly the issue with water that you think. It would be reasonable for you to think that you're going to come down here and you're going to have a water problem. There actually have been some other areas of the state, a place that my aunt used to live up in Northern California. They recently were talking, and I say recently, it was a couple of years ago, they were actually talking about having some issues where they may not even have enough water for that year. They're talking in terms of seasonality, as far as like how much water do we have for us. And then of course the last couple of years that we have gotten a lot more water. We had a lot of snowpack, not last winter but the winter before. Not as much this year yet, but who knows. I tend to drive up and down the state because I have family in Northern California. As I was driving down about a year or two ago, I remember noticing that it was the greenest I had seen it in many, many years. We got a little bit of a reprieve. It's not going to last forever. But so this was 2 years ago. We have gotten more water since then, at least for seasonally. We've got a little bit of breathing room. But again, down here, we talk in terms of decades, and you'll see that in the articles as well. So yeah, it's definitely not something you're going to have to worry about too much. I will also share with you, as far as water bills are concerned, I can speak to living in Indio. What it costs for us is going to be typically in the range of, depending on if you're having some sort of issue with your sprinklers. I have two homes that I manage here, including my own. And so I see the water bills here, and both of them are going to be running anywhere from $35. I've seen as much as $80. That's because we had a little sprinkler valve leak. We got it taken care of. It went back down. And they're normally more in the, I would say the more average would be a $40 to $60 range per month. So not that bad. I don't think that there might be other parts of the country that sounds kind of surprising, but I would imagine that most people are assuming that the water bills would be a lot higher here. Now, I do not have a pool, neither does the other house I manage. That's going to change things as well. So you're going to have to factor that in. But if you're talking about a basic home that uses a reasonable amount of water for 2 people plus guests that we have often, that's a pretty good indication. So I hope that helps as you're looking at your possibilities of either living here full time or possibly having this as your second home. Maybe that'll help you make some decisions as you're putting the numbers down. So always reach out to me anytime. You can always even schedule a Zoom with me if you even just have some questions, and that link is also below. Take care.